control exactly what people think, and that is our job.
Yeah.
Remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media.
I was wondering who did that. Thanks.
Ain't nothing to it. A baby could do it.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
I'm a human being, god damn it! My life has value! It's time to ask yourself what you believe.
Mass murder, torture, perjury, embezzlement, fraud, deception, treason. These are just a few of your many crimes against humanity. You will not win this war, for you are fighting the very essence of humanity.
We make this judgment affirmatively. It will be an entire nation.
Hey guys, what's going on? I have Jenny here from Red Pill Rage. That was a dope rant. I liked it. It got me fired up. Why? I mean, you know, you brought up a really good point in a video, which when you're talking about like how people riot when they're happy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, Laker fans. I used to work at the Yard House and I hate it. And we were just like, oh God, it's Lakers. Like, I hate the Lakers because of Laker fans.
Me too.
And it's like, totally. You know, it was such a hassle going home, you know, after a Laker game, whether they won or lost, they would just like be blowing shit up or, you know, setting shit on fire. And I totally forgot about that. Because you were like, I know how y'all act when you're happy. I was like, oh my God. That's so true. That's so true.
Well, I mean, it's funny that we should finally cross paths because I've admired you from afar for a long time, as you know. And I think it's fun that we both are California girls. And you've lived in Northern and Southern California. I've lived in Northern and Southern California. So yeah, we have a lot in common. And I remember I was in high school when the three-peat happened. So I think their first championship was when I was a junior. Their second championship was when I was a senior. And their third championship was the year after I graduated. And every fucking year, same thing. Same thing when the Clippers went to the playoffs. Fucking drama. Same thing when the Kings won. Every fucking time.
Have you seen that Chris Rock skit on Black people versus niggas?
Probably at some point.
I'll put like a link to it in the description because that's like, cause he's basically saying in the skit that he loves Black people, but he's like prejudiced against niggas, and those are the people that mess things up for regular Black people. It's the people that go and like, but he makes it funny. You know,
I remember it. I don't remember every punchline, but I remember the skit.
He's like, grand opening, grand closing. You know, can't go to a movie theater. Why? Because people are shooting at the screens. You know, like can't go. You know, can't go to amusement park. Can't do this. Can't do that. Why? Because you know. So he's just. Of course, I'm not Chris Rock, so I don't. You know, I'm not that funny, but you know what I mean? But he makes a great point, and it's just like, God, it's like those people. And thank God we have social media, because I kind of wonder, you know, back in my parents' day, back in the 60s, where, you know, we didn't have all of this stuff. We didn't have cameras, we didn't have phones, we didn't have, you know, a way to fight back. And, you know, there's a lot of race stuff going on in the country. How much of it now is really that manipulated, you know? I don't know. It's just, I mean, I'm not saying it didn't exist. Of course it existed, but I wonder how much fuel was really set to flame stuff, you know? Like, especially learning about the Ku Klux Klan being created by the Democratic Party, you know, where they just agents sent in to stir stuff up, you know, in places where they thought, you know, people were getting together and waking up about certain issues, you know, you know what I mean? Was it, you know, I don't know. So I'm sorry. Okay, so anyway, tell me about your journey from, were you always, you said, because I talked to you earlier, you said you were on the train. I didn't know if you just walked away. I didn't know, like, you know, what your deal was. What was your journey to this side of the aisle? Because we kind of talked a little bit about it on the phone, so.
I mean, I think secretly, like, I've always been conservative. Like, I've always been very pro-country, very pro-veteran. I come from a military family, so part of it is that, you know, I'm an Air Force brat. I think part of it is just because as much as I've struggled, like as a single mother and just not having an education before I had a baby, having a baby out of wedlock, you know, I really did, like, for a long time, really blame the world. And growing up in LA, you're kind of conditioned to believe that, you know, illegal immigration is fine. Abortion is like taking a shit. Women's rights are superior to everyone else's rights. You gotta coddle Black people. You have to slow down your speech for Mexicans. Asians, it's fine. Asians are free game because, you know, they're smart and they're rich and they've got their families together. So it's okay to make fun of Asians. It's okay to make fun of white people. Like, I grew up with that liberal attitude. I grew up with that, as you know, like, having lived in LA, like, it's something in the fucking water. It really is. Yeah. So you grow up conditioned by school, you grow up conditioned by the media, you grow up conditioned by your surroundings. You're taught that everything is fucking okay, anything fucking goes. So I grew up with that, and on one side, like, I was like really wild, and not just wild as a kid, but like wild in my 20s, early 30s, like, girl, I've done so much dirty shit in my life.
That's fine. I mean, but what does they say? They say the past is there for you to learn from, but it's not. It's not an excuse to be a jerk in the present. You know.
I've learned from it all, and I realized that living that do as thou wilt with that mentality is destructive. It is self-destructive. It is destructive mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually. It's destructive on every freaking level. And so, I mean, it wasn't that I was ever like full in, you know, I just kind of went with it because that was the culture of Los Angeles. So I've always been seeking truth. I've always been reading, you know, watching documentaries, reading books. Like, I've always been seeking answers. I've always been questioning. I've always been rebellious. I've always questioned the system. But I will say that right after Donald Trump got elected, there was a brief moment where I really started to have some TDS because I felt like, oh shit, there's gonna be KKK walking through the street. All the crazy white people are gonna come to the forefront and just start attacking everybody. And, you know, a month goes by, 6 months go by, nothing's happened. Life is fine. As a matter of fact, I've got my own place in Vegas. I'm making money. I'm feeling good. I've got a car. Everything that I can't afford in California, I've got in Vegas. Life is fucking good. And Ollie Matthews, who I told you about earlier from the Narcissistic Resistance, he was really one big eye opener that really made me switch teams, like kind of start switching teams publicly. And being in Vegas, being in a new town, I didn't know anybody, so I could be who I wanted to be. You know what I mean? So I actually got a little bit of freedom and relief in Las Vegas, which was nice.
It's kind of like leaving a cult.
Exactly.
Right? It's like when you're in a cult, you have all these people, and that's kind of how you brainwash people. Is you don't give them time to think outside of the people that they're around. And when people are getting cult members in, they keep them around. They don't want them talking family or friends or anybody outside of that, because then they'll start. So like, you can't control their mind that way. So I mean, people say it's a cult, but it's a cult. You know what I mean? It's like, and I think too, growing up in LA, when I moved to Taiwan, I feel like, you know, kind of being in Hollywood was a cult a little bit, just because even though I didn't get really far and I didn't know a lot of people, I felt like you hear stories and stuff, you know, growing up in LA, you know, you're still in this machine. So whether you're famous or not, you know somebody that's a degree away from a famous person, you know, a gardener, you know, you hear stories, somebody does somebody's laundry. The whole city really runs off the entertainment industry.
Absolutely.
From every type of business. They all draw from that. And I just, I think I told the story. I went to Sundance one year. I had a lot of things happen, like 2010. My aunt, who was like a second mom to me, she died. I went to Sundance that year, had a falling out with my friend while I was there, and I was supposed to hang out with her, but I ended up seeing a bunch of movies by myself, and it really made me realize you don't need Hollywood to be an artist. It was a blessing in disguise. And I was like, oh, I just ended up, had I hung with her, I probably wouldn't have saw all the like cool, like indie celebrity movies, Hollywood celebrity movies. But I'm just like, no, I'm gonna see this movie from Bolivia, and I'm gonna see this movie from Denmark. And, I'm like, fuck it. I'm gonna just, this looks interesting. I'm gonna see this movie. So, and I was like, oh yeah. And I know, I'm sorry for the people that are, foreigners. You're like, yeah, stupid American, of course. But that was just the brainwashing. You know what I mean? Like, brainwashed. Think that, especially because a lot of people do come here, and I think a lot of people that come to America, they're kind of brainwashed to think that too. And you're like, so, but getting out, and then when I moved away outside of America, and I actually had to live, because I think make a living, I think there is a difference too between people that go and travel, like people have the money to stay in 4-star, 5-star locations. They still have a different perspective. They still haven't really left, to me, they really haven't really left they haven't really, they're traveling technically, but they're not leaving that.
Experiencing.
Yeah, because I had to get a driver's license. I had to get pay taxes. I had to work. You know what I mean? I had to pay my gas bill. Like I was living as a working person there, and I think that kind of shifts your point of view if you let it, because a lot of the expat culture still seems to be very liberal, but for whatever
I noticed that.
Yeah.
Yes, I noticed that too. Yeah, even the expat culture, they still have that liberal white supremacy. I know better than you.
Yeah.
I know better than you, and they can always turn it on and turn it off. You know what I mean? They can slum it for 6 months, but this isn't their lifetime.
Yeah.
Living in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew this guy that was from Wales, and he would literally talk shit about the Taiwanese people in front of him. And I'd just be like, they can hear you. They can understand you. They may not be able to respond back because they're not confident in the English. I'm like, they can understand what you're saying. Like, I understand how people talk shit about everybody's culture. Everybody does it, but don't expect them to, don't do that in front of them and expect them to like you afterwards.
Ugly Americans, ugly.
Yeah,
Americans.
And at that time, I did not I didn't like the ugly Americans, I was embarrassed, I think I was like, yeah, dude, I'm not like them. They didn't even want to learn the language or even, it's the same, to me, it's just kind of the same principle. I mean, I didn't become fluent there, but I still made an attempt to respect the culture, just like Americans want people to do when they come here. You
Absolutely.
can't just right up in somebody's country and just shit all over their culture and expect them to respect you,
I know, it's white supremacy.
Yeah, yeah, and it really,
that's the real white supremacy.
They think, and when I taught, first year I taught kids and second year I taught adults, and I thought that I could change things by getting into curriculum writing for this company. And because it was very one-sided. And at the time, I wouldn't say that at the time, I was just like, okay, false left-right paradigm. I don't even vote anymore. I voted for Obama that one time before I moved. And then I was just like, all right. And then I would, the certain issues, world issues and stuff, I was like, well, that's not the whole story. But they would teach it as an absolute. I'm like, okay, well, maybe they don't know. Maybe, being me being naive, if I got into curriculum writing for this own company because they were hiring, I was like, okay, well, I can try. They weren't even having it. They weren't even having it. I was just like, okay. So I see I don't know how high up it went, but it's they have their point of view. They don't want to offer anybody else alternative points of view. And it's when you're learning a language, you're really vulnerable to that, because it's hard. Even when I'm learning languages, it's hard, to find other alternative points of view, especially if you're going through like a school. They just kind of have one set thought, you know, about something, and that's it. I'm talking too much. So anyway, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
No,
so,
but then the thing is too, I don't think a lot of these educational companies keep that in mind because it's not really in the budget. You know what I mean? It's not really in the budget.
No. It is in the budget. They just don't. I mean, it's just a matter of changing words. They had to hire a certain amount of curriculum writers. If I wanted to write another point of view, they could have just let me have push my point of view as well, and not just, you know, mute me. You know, you see what I'm saying? So it's not even like it's their worldview that they want pushed. I took the Spanish class online, and I got into this girl in Spanish because she was trying to push global warming, and I was just like, well, I don't believe it because of this, but I believe in pollution. I believe in, you know, I believe that's an issue, and I believe this is an issue. And she was like, oh no, well, you can read articles on Google, like Scholar. I was like, you can read articles on Google Scholar. People like that don't agree with you. So they just kind of think that they're superior, and they think, you know, even when I talk about vaccines, they're like, well, I get my sources from doctors. I'm like, yeah, me too. Like, they don't realize the information is conflicting and there are different points of view out there. That's the thing. They're so tunnel vision and so narrow-minded, and especially the academia whole thing, where, you know, if people went to college or they think they're travel, they just think that they're not even smarter or well learned in a certain subject, that they're just an all around better human being. And they
white supremacy.
Yeah. But I mean, but there are black people that think that too. They're
I
black
know.
Yeah. But I'm just saying they have that kind of elitist attitude. And honestly, most of the smartest people I've known have never even like finished or even went to college. Like, to me, those are the most
like that sometimes.
Most intelligent people I've ever met in my life.
It's like that sometimes. It's definitely like that. You know, your show, it's all about truth seeking. So, I mean, there's people who get it and there's people who don't. There's people who want to know and there's people who don't. And, you know, as far as like people not going to college, I mean, there's almost a benefit to that, because then your brain is not trained for another 4 years on how to take tests. You know, it gives a young mind an opportunity to explore. You know, I mean, I could definitely see that. Some of the best people, some of the best writers I know didn't go to college, but they read so many fucking books that they knew how to write, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, I think that's being done intentionally, because when I was teaching and I came into Alex Jones's stuff, this is, you know, way back in the day, he interviewed this lady named Charlotte Iserby, and she was talking about how the communists wanted to infiltrate the school system. And I was like, oh my God, it's like, this is, because I knew something was going on, but I couldn't like explain it, or I didn't have a thread to it. Mm-hmm. And pushing people into that logical side of the brain, you know, where they don't have whole brain thinking, that's a way to brainwash people and to capture their mind. As my friend Narciso will like to say, break their mind. Because he's just like, yeah, all these Marxist people, he was like, it's a way to break people's brains. He goes in, he just doesn't even think that there are people that are even going to come back from that. He's just like, I think a lot of these people are just done. You know, I don't want to think that, I guess, because I have a lot of kids that I taught that are in that right now. And that's what like kind of, you know, pulls at my heartstrings a little bit. But I mean, you know, for lack of a better word, they're brainwashed, you know?
I was brainwashed. You were brainwashed. Most of us who are coming forward right now we've been on the other side.
Yeah.
We've been on the other side. You know, you said you voted for Obama once. I voted for Obama twice. I was always pro-choice. Why? Because I was brainwashed into believing that that was the only alternative for women who were raped or incested. Little did I know, I never bothered to look at the numbers. I never bothered to look at the demographics. I never bothered to look at the locations of Planned Parenthood facilities. So when I actually started doing that, which was, you know, less than 3 years ago, the numbers were appalling. For example, we only have 38 million Black Americans in the United States right now in 2020? How is it that 18 million of them have been executed in the womb? You can't tell me that every single one of them was rape and incest. So what's going on in the culture? What's going on in the economy? Maybe there's something behind this. And then the name Margaret Sanger came up. Now that's not a name that you hear in class now, is it, kids? And if so, usually they use the quotes that sound super positive. So what I've realized is that I'm just getting too old to look at what people's fucking intentions are. So if the intention was women's rights and control over reproductive health, okay, if that was the intention, that's great. Yeah, that's what I signed on board for. But let's look at the result. I don't care what the intention was anymore. Let's look at the result. Let's look at the result of democratic leadership. I know the intention was good, okay? But the problem is but in certain circumstances, places in my life, I didn't take that extra step forward. I didn't go back into the company website and see who's proposing the bill or who's proposing the proposition and see who's paying for it. I wasn't looking at the fine print. Now I'm looking at the fine print, you know? So it's just, once again, it's that dividing line in humanity right now. And I feel like, you know, 2020 vision, seeing clearly, you know, these are special numbers here. And we have to all look at the bigger picture. But yeah, I feel what you're saying. Like you can lead them to water, girl. You can't make them drink, you know, but.
Yeah, and that's what I say. And I think you've said this is a spiritual war.
It is.
Battle. And, you know, my thing is I've been really open about my relationship with my brother and how it's declined, especially since this election. And I think the thing that hurts me is like, you know, you're going to, you know, before this, you didn't think that your sister was crazy or your sibling or your wife or your brother, whatever. But you're going to allow some television, some people that you don't even know that are going to dictate to you how your siblings are. So now I'm a white supremacist because I like our president. You know what I mean? Before I wasn't. So that's why I'm just like, it's brainwashing because as my friend Joss says, when you have a strong opinion about something, but you can't articulate why, that's brainwashing. And, you know, some people that will come at me on Facebook and I'll just kind of state why I feel the way I feel. And then I'll post a bunch of links. Of course, they never bother to look at the links and then they get intimidated. I was like, well, this is why I'm backing up my stuff. I'm sourcing up. Why are you backing up? And then they're like, oh, you just went off of me. I'm like, I didn't yell. I didn't use caps. I didn't call you out your name. I didn't curse you out. But I posted like 10 links and that scared you. But now you're saying I'm a violent person because I posted information. I posted facts. What are you drinking?
Oh, by the way, Virstyne, Ode to San Francisco. This is the Eiffel Tower Blueberry Sour. 5.8%. This is coming from Laughing Monk Brewery. And if you remember, like kind of the Dog Patch area, that's where this brewery is in San Francisco. So cheers.
Cheers. There's, Jennifer, she is a connoisseur of craft beer?
I am the beer queen. Jenny, the queen of beers.
Yeah. So, well, I'll put all her links in the description. You'll get to go check it out.
Yes. And I am looking for a proud, patriotic, conservative beer drinking audience because I have lost my liberal audience just recently.
They weren't your friends anyway.
They weren't my friends anyway. They were, fuck them.
But that's how you know, it's hurtful at first, but then you realize who your friends are, you know. I mean, it sucks. And you know what sucks even more is that I don't care if my liberal friends were liberal, you know, and I've talked about a lot too. I've had the hardest time making friends and I love people. I usually make friends anywhere I go, but as soon as they find out my, you know, and I'm sure now, you know, your affiliations or your ideas about stuff, they don't even talk to you. This name is like, why don't you just ask me? Why don't we have a conversation? Why don't we have a debate? No, they can't. Oh my God, I must be, you know, people when I work for Lyft and I would Lyft people and people would ask me stuff and I tell them, and they couldn't handle it. They literally like would get scared and try and like jump out the car. Like,
oh, over little old you.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not even a big person. Like you're gonna like, you're just gonna like, oh no. This is one I was gonna say, they were talking about vaccines. I was like, yeah, my best friend and my cousin are autistic, and they were like, oh, and it was raining, and they had a baby, and we were almost at the airport, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, oh, we have a few more feet. You don't have to get out. They're like, no, we'll get out here. I'm like, you think I'm gonna suck her blood or something? Like, why? You know, it's insane. But I mean, and it's funny because I talk to people too, and some people will say like, well, how do you know who's right? Like, how do you know? Like, they think that the same thing about us, and we think the same thing about them. I'm like, no, here's the difference. We've been on that side, and now we're on the other side, and we can back up our claims with sources and facts, and they can't.
And experiences.
And they can't. So that's how you know who's right. Who's right, about the situation. I feel, but I think they're just some people too. They're not comfortable taking a stand, and they'd rather just sit in the middle. But I mean, I've been saying this for a while. There's sides now. Like
there are. They're
not. I never thought I'd say that. I never thought I'd come to this part in history where I'd be like, oh, I have to pick a side, because I generally try and stay in the middle too and see both sides. But I'm like, no, y'all crazy motherfuckers.
Not anymore. And I lived that way. I lived that way, Virstyne, for years. And it's funny that when we were on the phone, you asked me if I had started a podcast, and you didn't know, but I actually do have a podcast. It's the podcast about the beer. So I have been remaining neutral these last 2 years because I knew, not without specifics, I knew because of that incident that I told you about in 2014, I knew that I better fucking keep my mouth shut, because I know what happens in the fallout if people see you in a negative light, don't fully listen to what you say, take what you say out of context, and then ruin your fucking life. You can lose your job. I lost my job, and then I lost the place that I was living, and I bounced around for about, God, like a good fucking 6 months after that. I mean, it was just, there's a lot at risk, and you're lucky, to some degree. You're an independent contractor, so you have some flexibility. You don't have to see the same faces every day. If certain people get offended, there's still, 80 or for every 10 writers who get offended, there's 80 or 90 writers who absolutely love you, because you've got great customer service, you're a polite person, and you do your job, but it's like none of that matters. You know what I mean? Find out somebody loves Trump, all of a sudden you're enemy of the state. And that's that black and white thinking that's destroying our country. Nobody can be purple. Nobody can be gray. Nobody can be in the middle, But like you said, it is time to choose sides. And that's why I started Red Pill Rage literally less than 3 weeks ago, because I said, you know what? It is time to fucking choose sides. We've had enough. We've sat back. We've let the Covington kids get attacked. I didn't say anything. Every time there was a race hoax, Jesse Smollett, every other fucking race host that there was, I sat back, didn't say anything on my social media, didn't say anything to my friends, didn't say anything to anybody in real life. I'd be at somebody's house, they'd be talking shit about Donald Trump. Their whole philosophy was illogical. Their philosophy was based on lies and fake news. I sat back, I never fucking said anything. But like I told you, when Santino's place got attacked, and that's the building my dad lived in, it was like, oh no, we choose sides now.
Tell them about Santino's place. Wild Living Foods in LA was a great place. The weigh-in, I had to come home and look at the drink that I love getting there. The weigh-in.
Oh, I always went there for ice cream, honey. I'm a thick bitch. I like to eat. I like the
ice cream too, but like I went there during my time in the month, and I was just like, I went there. I'll do a whole thing on him recently because I got my conspiracy realist idea from him. But one of my friends and mentors, Liam Chef, he died, and after his memorial service, we all ended up going there and hanging out. It was like I don't know, 20 of us that went there. And I was like having the worst PMS, and one of the waitresses was like, "What's wrong, honey?" And I was like, "I'm crappy." And she's like, "I have the perfect drink for you." And it was just like magic. The place is magic. They have really good food. I love it. I love the energy. I love the art. I love the spacing. It's just a beautiful place. And I didn't know. And then that time when I visited LA, I went back there 3 times, my whole visit when I was there for within like the weekend, 2 weeks I was there. And I took some other friends there. And then my other friend was like, "That's Santino." I was like, "Who?" And he was—
Oh, I forgot to mention, so most people know him from RuPaul's Drag Race, but he was also on the first season of Project Runway. Do you remember that?
I don't think I saw Project Runway.
Google, okay, Google, okay.
I watch a lot of TV, but I know the show. And
you have to Google his impression. Get the video of Santino's impression of Tim Gunn. It is hilarious.
Yeah, man. So yeah, tell them who he is and tell them what you told me about the place and what kind of person he is.
Okay. So I know Santino from he was friends with my friend who was a yoga instructor. She had her own place in downtown LA. They actually used to cook together, and I actually used to cook with her too. So before Santino used to cook with her, I used to cook with her too. So there's a whole vegan chef community in LA, and Santino was a big part of that. So finally,
Sage Bistro.
Sage, yeah, I've been there too. Yeah, plenty of times. One day I'll tell you about my raw vegan chef journey, but that's for another time.
Yeah.
That's when we have the nutrition episode.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So Santino and I, we knew each other through the yoga studio, and then he opened up his own place on 8th and Main called Wild Living Foods, and Virstyne was talking about how she had been there. So I used to go in there, gave me a hug. My dad knew him. My daughter knows him. The first night of the riots in LA, his whole restaurant got smashed the fuck up. Everything destroyed. Everything.
And it's like, what are they gonna steal? Like the kale? You were talking about like that, the coconuts,
the apple cider vinegar, cider vinegar, the agave. What are they gonna steal?
Yeah, just for shits and giggles, and they just smash it up. Yeah.
So that was kind of why I had to finally come out of the closet. Like, I wasn't just upset. My daughter was upset. My father was upset. And I realized, it was time to choose a side, because what I was doing is, while I was sitting back as a business owner and being neutral, every other business was virtue signaling to me and telling me, George Floyd, we stand with Black Lives Matter, Blackout Tuesday, the same old bullshit over and over and over again. And for a couple weeks, I tried to fucking deal with it. But when the riot broke out and when that shit happened to him, and the funniest part, the most ironic part is, right now, I'm going on a fucking rampage against RuPaul right now, because RuPaul and all the queens whom I've followed for years, and I follow every single one of them because I'm a huge fan of the show, been to DragCon, I mean, you name it. Okay, I'm with that. I'm with that life, okay? I'm with that diva life, okay? So they never once said anything about Santino's place. So here they are pushing the Black Lives Matter, pushing it. Every drag queen is pushing it. Every RuPaul is pushing it. Oh, here at the RuPaul show, us and our producers, we stand against this, and we stand for this, and we stand for that. And they kept fucking pushing it. And I'm looking at their Instagram feeds, and I'm like, you fucking assholes, you fucking pieces of shit. One of your own got hit with violence, got hit with being looted, got hit with being robbed, got hit with everything that he spent his last penny into The restaurant that employs lesbian girls, bisexual girls, black girls, Latina girls, black guys, white guys, the restaurant that employs people who live in the neighborhood, who are of color, and y'all don't say shit for him. That's when I cracked. After that, I cracked. So welcome to Red Pill Rage, everyone. Cheers.
Yes, yes. I'm sorry that happened to your friend. And I mean, I didn't know him, but I know the restaurant. I think I ordered from him. I knew my friend knew who he was. I just remember him because he's hella tall.
Oh yeah, he's about 6'6", 6'7". He's tall.
Yeah. I'm like, he's one of the tallest people I've probably ever seen in my life in person.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude. And at first I was like, is he wearing boots? Like I was like looking over the counter. I was like, is he really that tall? And then my friend, he was like, that's Santino. I was like, who? And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, and I've heard, when you grow up in LA, you hear about celebrities and you hear, a lot of people, some people have bad days, but then you hear good things about, celebrities, bad things about celebrities. And he's one person I've heard nothing but good things about. So it just breaks my heart that happened to him, and it pisses me off. I didn't know, but I'm not even following. I'm just like, I'm not even watching Hollywood films anymore. I've been watching a lot of indie films, a lot of like, if I do watch movies, I mean, I'll see Hollywood stuff here and there, but I'm not even like, I can't look at Hollywood the same.
I can't either. I got my resubscription on my, through my PayPal, my auto pay for Hulu. I need to just fucking cancel it. I can't, knowing what, I mean, and so you should probably tell everyone the story of how we met, because I sent you that video and I'm really taking a closer look at everything, re-examining everything for myself. I know that you guys were real, I've seen you call out Jeffrey Epstein before he died. I've been following you for a long time, like I said, and I can't support it. Knowing what's behind it, knowing the messaging, knowing the involvement that GLAAD has in the entertainment industry, I just can't do it anymore. I don't want my money going to this filth anymore. It's morally depleting for me. Okay, it's just a distraction. I spend less time on my business, less time on my podcast, and it's not real art anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's a couple of great AMC shows. There's a couple of great Fox FX shows. There's a couple of great fucking Showtime and HBO shows. But other than that, it's still all trash. It's still all garbage. And that's, once again,
and they make a lot of the same movies. There's not even like a lot of original writings. They just
how many 80s toys and 80s cartoons have been regurgitated into action films now? They can't come up with anything original.
Yeah.
There's a new DuckTales. There's a new My Little Pony.
There's a new DuckTales. Oh my!
There's a new DuckTales. There's like a revised DuckTales now.
Is it like for the movies or for like?
No, it's on Disney. It's like, but the animation is different. It's not the one we grew up with. Yeah, it's fucked up now.
I freaking love DuckTales. It was like Indiana Jones. Yeah. Quackaroonie. Like, I love DuckTales. I love Launchpad McQuack.
Might solve a mystery or rewrite history. DuckTales.
Woo! I love DuckTales. I'm so mad. Like, I can't. I feel like, like when you're young and then your parents and stuff, and they say, oh, things aren't like they used to be. And you're like, oh, you're just saying that because you're old. Now I'm at that point where I'm like, oh my God, I'm where my parents were. But I think we have more of a basis now for our claims about the propaganda and all this stuff. So we met. You want me to tell? Yeah, she tagged me. And I'm usually, like, I do the Facebook. I mean, I do the YouTube. My best friend and co-founder, she usually does the Facebook. So, and she curates a lot of good articles and stuff for Facebook. And I just happened to be on the other day and I heard Beer Talk and I was like, wait, what is this Beer Talk lady? And I was like, oh my God. So I just happened to see it. But usually the co-founder, if somebody messages me, she'll let me know, and she'll be like, "Oh, you have a message," because she knows I'm not on Facebook a lot. So I'm like, cool. But then I just happened to see it and I watched it. And it was basically, you were reading like, it was a letter from GLAAD or like their mission statements.
Okay, so what I was, so just so you're clear, you don't know this because I didn't tag you in any other videos, but I had created about 6 other pedophilia videos, and I still have about 5 or 6 more to create. And that particular video was about the relationship between what was the gay agenda in the late 80s and early 90s. And the document was by a man named Michael Swift, and he wrote for a publication called the Gay Community News. This document was an essay that he wrote in that publication, but there was a record of it in the Congresional record, so that's where I pulled the resource. So I was very clear about where I got it from. As we all,
so you pulled the letter from the Congresional records?
From the Congresional record, written for the Gay Community News by Michael Swift.
So that's the actual letter that you wrote from the Congresional records. So wasn't there like something you said about a sentence that was taken out, or that?
Yeah.
Was
so what it said was whoever posted that, it was, I could tell it was biased because they interjected that this letter was used for right-wing propaganda against, you know, gays. But either way, I felt like whatever was omitted really doesn't negate the fact that this letter was written by an author for the Gay Community News. This was the philosophy that he was presenting at the time. And so what I'm trying to do with that video was, I wasn't trying to say, okay, this is this sick letter that somebody wrote, so let's project that onto all gay people. That's not what I was trying to do. What I was trying to do was say, okay, that 87, here we are in 2020. Let's look back on how the gay community has impacted education, entertainment, the family unit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I used that letter as kind of a checklist to see how much was on that letter has happened in real life. You know what I mean? And so that's what I was doing, is I wasn't saying, okay, let me tell you what his motivation is. I'm saying, let's look at the results of what has happened in entertainment the last 20 years, and then let's try to deduce what the motivation is. Perhaps this letter represents the mindset of the gay community, or members of the gay community, or members of the media in the gay community. And if you look at what I'm saying, if you look at what GLAAD is and what GLAAD does, in my mind, it supports it.
So yeah, no, it does. It does. I remember you were reading some stuff and you're like, no, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? But it's true. You're like, wait a minute. And you know, it's so funny, Jim, because I have a lot of gay friends too. And I remember hearing people say, oh, there's a gay agenda. And I would be upset. I would be offended. I'd be like, there's not.
Me too. Me too.
Like, what are you talking about? Like,
me too.
Or gay people are just that way. Like, I would just be like, I remember I had a friend that was telling me that she thought gay people were gay because they were like molested and raped. And I was like, come on, man, they're just that way because that's who they are.
They're born that way, baby.
Yeah.
Born this way.
Yeah. Like, but at the time, just me being protective of my, my friends, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, but as I've gotten older, I would say, maybe there are a couple of my friends that I haven't talked to. I would say 90% of my friends that are gay have been molested.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too. And I have no problem telling you that, you know, I am bisexual, but at this point in my life, I'm starting to question, would I find an attraction to women if I had not been molested by another girl when I was 5 years old? And I think, and I told you on the phone, I think that if the gay community could just come clean about that one fucking thing, instead of trying to convince the world that they're born that way, let's just examine one thing. Let's just look at your environment and how you grew up, okay? Please. That's all I'm saying. I'm not asking them to deny that they were born that way. I'm just saying, is it possible that some were created through their environment or through a traumatic experience? Okay. I have a, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. And you have a what? And you have a what? I didn't mean to.
I even have a video, like I said, in part of my pedophilia series where I use someone else's podcast. Her name is Six the Goddess. Shout out Six the Goddess. And she talks about how the imprinting of hypersexuality can happen to a child when they are molested under a certain age because their brain hasn't developed. We all know that. Any psychologist can tell you that. Any child development major in college can tell you that. But for whatever reason, the gay community won't accept responsibility for it and won't even acknowledge it. And all I'm proposing is the idea, is it possible that some people are gay because they were sexualized by the same sex at a young age and their brain shifted? Is it possible? That's all I'm saying.
You know, and it's funny because if anybody, on a side note, if anybody's listening to this, if you can see me, I'm looking for information on the chakras and how if you mess with the lower chakra, the sex chakra, to at a younger age, if anybody's done a research on that and on a spiritual level, if that can mess with your sexuality, I'm interested in that. But yeah, but I also am beginning to, you know, think about the chemical, if homosexuality can be induced via chemicals, via hormones, you know, you do have incidences of gay animals in the environment, you know, and then they molest and rape and stuff too, just like we do. Right. You know, I'm just like, I know I'm kind of taking it all far, but I know that there's going to be that devil's advocate. Well, there's, you know, there's gay animals in the environment, but then there was a study that was showing that, you know, Tyrone Hayes, you know, that guy that he worked for Syngenta. He's a black scientist. And it's funny how Neil deGrasse Tyson gets more play than this dude, but I think this guy's interesting too. He basically was a frog biologist and he worked for Syngenta and he was doing research on, he's a biologist, but his emphasis was on frogs and he was studying these frogs. And the herbicide, I forgot the name of the herbicide, but it was created by Syngenta. And the herbicide that they were using, the runoff would go into the stream, the nearby stream. And he got these frogs, and first the frogs were like, they were heterosexual, but the more they were exposed to this chemical, they became homosexual.
Fluoride.
No, it's not fluoride. It's I mean, fluoride could be, I don't know, but I forgot the name of the chemical. And he was a black scientist and he worked at Berkeley. And he actually was in the New Yorker before like this election and stuff. This even before it was really, the lines are really drawn. But he started dressing like with plaids, like, you know, what do you call these, blazers, and he started cornrolling his hair because he wanted to stick out, because as he was speaking out about this, he was getting like death threats. They tried to like ruin his career. I have to send it to you. I'll send it to you. I'll put that in the links too. Wait, I'm gonna write it. Tyrone. Anyway, so, and then there's another studies that was done on storks, and I forgot what chemical was introduced in the environment, but the bird started to act homosexual. But if you think about it, when people get sex changed, they're given certain hormones to make them more of the other sex. So why couldn't that be induced?
Well, I mean,
if you're a man
to some
getting
degree,
a sex change, you're given chemicals to grow your breasts to make you more feminine, and vice versa. If you're a woman getting a sex change, you're given chemicals to make, or hormones to make your hair grow facially. So all of the BPA stuff, all the chemicals, all the stuff in our environment, the soy, you know, if people are drinking these phytoestrogens, these xenoestrogens, and that could be another way to mess with their sexuality, to confuse people. And you also have—
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
With the aborted fetal tissues, right? Some of the cells are MRC5 or male, and the WI38 are female. But what if you're injecting females into a vaccine that was grown on female aborted fetal tissue into a pregnant woman, or a woman that's going to get pregnant? Could that have any impact on their sexuality? You know? And I think there's some gay people that will like this information, because I know a lot of gay people that struggle with why they are the way they are, and they make it seem like it's, you know, it's a happy thing, right? It's funny, right? You also think of like the programming, gay, you know, technically it was happy, it meant happy. But there's so much sadness in the gay community that nobody
I know.
want to talk about. There's a lot of drug use, there's a lot of homelessness, there's a lot of abusive relationships.
Oh yeah.
It's not like a ride in the park. And now as I get older, you know, a lot of my gay friends are lamenting the fact that they can't procreate with the people that they love and have children, because even though they're gay, they're still human, and they want their bloodline to live on, and they want to have kids, and nobody chooses really to be that way.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, tell me about it. I live in San Francisco. I know. I mean, I think a lot of that is where a lot of this insecurity comes from, is that deep sadness, that deep confusion, you know. And I don't think that companies like GLAAD need to insert themselves like they're the fucking answer for anyone who's confused. Do you know, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
I wish there was a better support system for gay people that was more holistic. Like you said, is there some diet? Is there some poisoning? Is there some hormonal issues? But then also it's like your childhood, your environment, you know, were you exposed to pornography when you were a child? Were you molested by another child? Did something happen between you and your older brother? You know what I mean? I mean, these are so many questions to ask, and I wish there could be a middle ground somewhere where someone, maybe we need to do this, is create some sort of facility where people can just figure it out. And it's like no judgment either way. If you're on the down low, great, let's figure that out and stop lying to your wife. But you know what? If you're, you know what I mean? If you really are straight and you just experimented because your coach molested you and you never learned appropriate boundaries, let's address that as well. Maybe you really are straight, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, it's like, you know, what was I gonna say? I watched the Democratic Party, and they run the same game on gay people as they do on Black people. And they don't want people to be secure, because when somebody's insecure, they're so much easier to control. They're so much more susceptible to mind games and manipulation. Absolutely. And it's like, you probably know this too. Like, you know, they have this whole like persona that a gay person has to fit. If you're a guy, you have to go clubbing every weekend. You have to wear pastels. You have to wear rainbow shit. You know,
you have to do ecstasy.
You have to do ecstasy. You have to do meth. You know, all this stuff. And I've literally had friends that were gay, but they were like, I like soccer. And they've been approached by other gay friends, and they're like, you're not gay enough. Just like Black people are approached by other Black people, like, you're not Black enough, you know? You have to talk with a lisp if you're a guy, and if you're a girl, you have to be butch, you have to have short hair, you have to, like, not shave your legs, you have to, you know, and of course, there are exceptions to this, but just like, you know, being Black, you know, you have to talk a certain way, you have to like hip-hop, you have to have a certain persona and fit into this box that they have perfectly manufactured for you, and if you don't fit into that box, then you can't call yourself what you are. You know, they have the rules. They can christen you what they feel, but it's the same shit that's being run in the gay community. And I feel like a lot of gay people capitulate to it, even though they don't even really want to, but because they've lost their families, they have to have a community, you know. And I think a lot of the SJW rage, just to be fair, comes from a lot of very harsh religious people who have judged them and kicked them out of their families. You know, I know a lot of gay people that have, like, you know, their families have disowned them. They, you know, or they were beat up and constantly abused, you know, in their town, you know. So I understand that. So now that's why, you know, it's like this whole elitist thing, right? Like, this is.
But you know what, Virstyne, let me stop you for a second. 1 second, Virstyne. But the problem with that complaint for me, and I've heard the same stories. When I was 18 years old, there was an HIV clinic that I used to work at on Crenshaw and Jefferson. You know where it is, in the jungles, girl. Okay, so I've heard that excuse. I've seen the statistics, and I understand about runaways and prostitutes and trans and coming out and getting kicked out of the house. But at the end of the day, those are still first world problems to me.
Yeah.
Those are still first world problems. If someone is that in fear for their life and that in fear for, you know, getting kicked out of the house, they can wait till they're 18 to come out. Okay. Is it turmoil? Does it hurt? Does it make you depressed? Does it make you feel suicidal? Yes, it does. But at the end of the day, do you know how many kids are depressed and suicidal in their teen years? Plenty. You know, do you know how many adults have suffered from sexual, physical, emotional abuse as well? Plenty. So once again, like I said, I'm at the age where it's like, I don't care what your intention is. What is the result? Your intention was you wanted equality. But at the end of the day, you're still really fucking insecure. And no matter how much we kiss your ass and bow and cave and make cartoons and do the inclusivity thing and make fucking SpongeBob gay, you're still not going to feel like a whole, complete person on the inside, because what you're not telling everyone is that you got raped by your older brother. And that's the real issue. Yes. It's not that the world doesn't accept you. It's that you perceive that the world doesn't accept you. You blew Matthew Shepard's murder out of proportion, just like every Black person who gets murdered by a cop. Their murders are getting not even murdered, sometimes just reasonably killed, you know, whatever. They beat that same fucking dead horse. Well, you know, I couldn't see my partner because their family kept them away from me and they were on their dying deathbed, and I couldn't get any benefits from their company, and I couldn't and my parents kicked me out of the house, and people don't like me at work, and somebody outed me when I was in college. Okay, great. I'm sorry that happened to you, but guess what? Overweight, obese people face discrimination too. Asians face discrimination too. Okay, everybody faces discrimination. So at the end of the day, what is your intention? Is your intention to be equal, or is your intention to be celebrated and special? Because the pendulum has swung. See, when we were kids, Virstyne, remember when Matthew Shepard happened? That's what tipped the scale. That was I think it was a young white boy in Oklahoma who got outed, and then he got his ass beat and he got killed, okay? For people in the 70s, for their generation, it was the Stonewall, Conewall, I don't know what the fuck it was. Harvey Milk, I don't fucking know, okay? But whatever. I don't care. I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. At the end of the day, we have so much gay representation on TV. We have it in our schools. They have gay marriage. What more do they want? What more can we give them? They want what I'm saying, you know, especially from that video. What I'm trying to illustrate is that the motive is might be a little bit more sinister. And I was like you, Virstyne. When I was coming up, my mother was Christian. I used to listen to TBN. All the Christians were talking about the gay agenda. And to me, I was like, you're so mean, you're homophobic, you're hateful. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen like that. And one thing that Pastor John Hagee, and I believe he's also in Texas, one thing that Pastor John Hagee said, and I remember distinctly when I was 14 or 15 years old watching this on TV, he illustrated how the gays were going to bring in pedophilia. It was going to come in through gay marriage. And let's look at the fucking Trojan horse that fucking turned out to be. It's not that I want to put words in anyone's mouth and say, this is what you want. I'm saying, is it possible that based on what you demand, if we reverse engineer that, what was your motive?
Yeah. No. But my thing, what I was gonna say too, is that it is planned, and they're not, like with all those problems that we talked about that are in the gay community, nobody's addressing that. They're addressing
nobody talks about it.
Like nobody, you know, when we were younger too, nobody was like, I can't wait till they're gender neutral bathrooms, then we'll be free. Like nobody, like what they're talking about petty shit. They're not talking about the problems that we were just talking about. Exactly. So they're not really trying to help them. They're not truly really trying to heal them. They're not really trying to bring the gay community up. This is what I was talking about. They're writing the same shit that they're, you know, writing on the Black people. Why aren't they trying to figure out a way to solve the gang crisis in the inner cities?
Right.
right? And to have, and why don't they do like PTS trauma? Because most of those people now, they're easily programmable too, because they're primed for PTS trauma. If you're living in a violent situation and you're seeing people getting killed every day and shot, and there's a lot of drug going on, you fucking have PTSD. You're technically living in a war. So because of that, but if you get into mind control too, like that's what they do. Like if I read the mind control stuff, where they have like the when they do like the one-on-one experiments with people, what they do is they abuse them so much that their mind fragments. But I feel like with a lot of these people, the gay community, the Black community, what they've been able to do, they expose them to so much trauma over a long period of time. They're still kind of compartmentalized and fragmented. So they're easily manipulatable with messages. There's a lot of people on drugs. The drugs that's another thing too, that makes you more susceptible to all this stuff, all this programming. And then the insecurity, because a lot of people may even had some of the thoughts that we have, but they don't have the confidence to come out and talk about it because they're not scared. And that's one thing I talked about on the podcast before, is like, because I always ask people usually like, when was their journey? When did you wake up? When did you realize you were being lied to about a lot of stuff? And, and I think it had to be an incident where it just shook them away, or shook them awake, where they had to realize that either, they had to basically take a stand, and then taking a stand meant that they had to increase their confidence, because a lot of people are also afraid because the mob. Oh yeah. Even like I was saying with gay people, like you don't club. Like I had a friend, like, you're not going to the club. You're not gay enough. You're not Black enough. I went through that whole like I'm not Black enough thing. I'm glad that I went through that shit at 12. And
Me too.
Now,
Girl, let me tell you something. I was the only little girl of color listening to Kevin and Bean and K-Rock when I was a kid, okay? How do you think that feels when you're the only little girl who likes Nirvana and Soundgarden and wearing corduroys and flannels, and all the other little Black girls are wearing Fila's and Skechers, and they're making fun of you?
And Fubu.
Okay. Girl.
Yeah, I know how that feels. And I don't care. I don't care now. I don't care, but I tried for a year, right? And then I was either trying to sell hard, like I was trying to like talk with improper grammar shit so I could fit in. It just was terrible. And I got tired. It's tiring. I was just like, because my thing is I like classical music. I like classic rock. I had a cousin that got me into classic rock and world music and classical music and stuff like that. And I like some of the conscious hip hop. I wasn't too much into it. But, I mean, I like all kinds of music, but yeah, of course, and I would literally, girl, I would have a Walkman, and I would get like mixtapes, and I would put like, I would be listening to Tchaikovsky, but I'll write like, Slick Rick on it or something like that on the tape. So people
That's what men do when they're cheating, like their side bitch will be named Jenny, but they'll put Jeff and then save it under context as Jeff.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I was doing with
philosophy, right?
With the blackness. And it was and I remember I got corduroys, and I tried to like do graffiti on them, or like not corduroys, but overalls. And I tried so hard. And I'm just like, I swear within a year, I was like, these people are crazy. And the first part of my life, I grew up in Koreatown, so most of my friends were like Asian and Latino. So I was in junior high, I was like, cool, I'm gonna go to this school with Black kids. It's gonna be fun, blah, blah, blah. It was like a fucking nightmare. It was a fucking nightmare. It was
not fun, was it?
It was like, I was not prepared for white racism. I was not prepared for racism with other Black people. I was not prepared.
Right. Yeah, I went through it. My daughter went through it, I thought her going to she was at this Black excellence school in Inglewood. I thought it was going to be the best thing forward, and it's like now all these years later, she's telling me like they were ghetto, they fought all the time, everyone talked shit about each other, everyone bullied each other. And I was like, damn, I should have left you with the Asian kids.
And it's funny because I even in a gifted, because I went to like a gifted program too, but it was like even the gifted Black kids had that attitude. They were still You know what I mean? Like the quote unquote kids, like that were excellent, that were, you know, great, like they had that attitude.
And it still carries over. I fucking did a video about this. Follow me on Instagram, redpill_rage. I did a video about this. Even with the Black excellence in their mindset, they are still very colorist. They are still very discriminatory. They do not, if you even listen to a different type of music, if you even, when I was a kid, all the Black girls had their hair straight. Their hair was straight. So if you had curly, puffy hair, oh, you were fucking prime target for being a bully. And that, there you go. There you go. And I got product in my hair right now, but usually it's about right here. Okay.
Shrinkage is real, girl.
About right there. Okay.
But at the time I had a perm, but I still like didn't keep it up and stuff. But it still wasn't straight enough, you know?
It never is.
Like, yeah, it was, but you know what? I wasn't dark skinned, and I never my parents did not play that dark skin, light skin, good hair, bad hair shit. But, you know, a lot, if you were darker skinned too, you got rags on.
But then for me, it was the opposite. The light skinned girls got picked on when I was coming up in LA. So it's crazy how the dynamics always work, you know?
Yeah, it's the color.
The dark skinned girls hated me.
Oh, they're like, she thinks she pretty with all that long hair. Like you know, it's, yeah, I can see.
But
that.
they wouldn't talk to me. They wouldn't talk to me because we weren't in the same classes, and even like when we were, they never got to get to know me. And if they got to get to know me, like I was cool with everybody. I hung out with the skater kids, the gothic kids, the emo kids, the nerdy kids, the Black kids, and the athletes. And the theater kids too. I knew everybody.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, if they'd have just talked to me, everything would have been fine. Cause I was a party girl back then. I'm a party girl now. I'm nice to everybody. But once again, it goes back to this bullshit, you know, the same people that have been following me on Instagram, watched all my beer videos, all my beer reviews, all my cooking videos, everything. People fucking loved me. But as soon as I fucking spoke up about George Floyd and this rioting bullshit, every day I'd lose 10 fucking followers. So, sayonara.
Yeah. I mean, what can you say? You just gotta do, you gotta pick your side and do what you feel is right at this moment. What do you think it looks like for the re-election, for Trump being re-elected?
It's gonna be a TKO. It's gonna be a smackdown. I'm not concerned.
Steal it. Like we have, what is it now? July, August, September, October, November. 5 months of fucking terror. They're gonna
I did a video about this just today. The problem is that they don't have anybody. I think, you know, everything is a domino effect. They don't have anybody they think can compete. They don't have a contender to get into the ring with Donald Trump. They just don't. They had every option in the world, but they just couldn't do it. They just couldn't bring anybody forward who didn't have skeletons in their closet, wasn't fucking dirty, okay? And that says a lot about the Democratic Party, wasn't doing some weird fundraising bullshit, wasn't playing the victim. They couldn't bring up a candidate that was qualified for the job, had new ideas, was reasonable, was articulate, was able to debate without attacking each other. And the most funny part about these past couple of months is we got to watch the Democratic Party devour each other. That was kind of fun. Those debates were hilarious. I watched every single one. They were so juicy, so juicy. They can't bring forward a candidate that appeals to blue collar workers, middle America. They can't even bring somebody forward that appeals to any law-abiding American. They pandered for every type of criminal and every type of dysfunctional mentality, every type of poverty stricken mentality that was out there. That's who they fucking champion. They don't champion people who work hard. They don't champion people who own their own businesses. They don't champion truthers. They don't even champion people who are in the middle, you know, like, you know, you and I kind of were in limbo for a while, you know, wanting to get along with everybody, wanting to see everybody's point of view. They don't champion for any kind of order or morality. It's a fucking free-for-all on the Democratic side.
Yeah.
And they can't even get along with each other. The AOC versus Nancy Pelosi. Fuck, dude, it's like, where's my fucking bonbons and popcorn? Like, take me to the fucking theater.
Oh my God, you said bonbons. I miss bonbons.
Bonbons. I love ice cream, girl. I love ice cream.
Girl,
I don't eat candy, but I love ice cream.
I'm more of a cake person, but then ice cream is a close second. But I just got these, and I'm trying to. I've been going up and down trying to quit sugar. I got these coconut bliss. Have you had these coconut bliss salted caramel? Oh my God, that stuff's amazing. They're like bonbons, but like bigger bonbons. But bonbons you just pop in your mouth.
Right.
But
yeah, so I think it's going to be a landslide. But what the problem is right now is because of so much that's coming to the surface. We are all really taking a stance right now. Like we talk about this whole meeting, choosing a side. And I think that the more ridiculous the Democratic Party gets, the more Donald Trump needs to just literally sit back and say nothing. So I actually think he's going to get quieter over the next couple of months. He's letting the Democratic Party show their true colors. He's letting the Democratic Party attempt to exhibit leadership in these trash cities, such as mine, such as yours probably, such as Las Vegas, such as LA. He's going to let them hang their own noose. So we, the truthers, we, the conspiracy realists, we just normal people who have common sense, normal people who have enough sense of right and wrong to know that killing and molesting children is a little bit worse than what happened to George Floyd. Okay, we understand that there is a fucking dividing line right now. Okay, and you better get on the right side of right, because if you're not, all these fucking TikTok videos, all these YouTube videos of people looting, okay, with all the face recognition that everybody voluntarily puts into their phone when they do the goddamn, you know, filters and shit.
Yeah.
Some people are going to start going to jail. Just watch.
Oh, but you know, in the riots they got caught. There were people that got caught, but even without that stuff, because there are people that what they'll do, they'll brag, right? And
they can't keep their mouth shut.
All the shit that they stole out in the street. You know what I mean? And then one person get caught, and then that person will rat the other people out. So they're gonna get caught. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, and plus the cameras in the store. So like, come on, you got like, geez, you know, I mean.
Brazen, right? Brazen.
Yeah, yeah, man. What do you think of the Chaz incident, the Chop incident?
I think it is a product of their own creation. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know, I don't know if you remember years ago, and this is my philosophy that I share on my channel. Really, this like rioting and occupying bullshit, it really started with Occupy Wall Street in 2008. In my opinion, okay? I really feel like that's when white people first stepped out into the forefront and said, we're victims too, right?
Yeah.
And so I think Chaz is just an amplified version of what I saw on Spring Street in downtown LA when they occupied the city hall. I don't think most people know this, but there was $2 million worth of damage after I don't know how long it was, 30 days, 2 months or whatever. What that socialist entitled, spoiled group of hippie bullshit attracts is drug addicts, rapists, murderers, gangsters, and people who want a free pass for the purge. That is what I saw in Occupy Wall Street years ago. Years ago, because I got a blanket and I got a fucking a sleeping bag, and I was gonna go join. I was gonna go join the fight. But then when I got down there, I turned around after a couple hours and went straight back to my apartment and went to sleep. Because I said, you know what?
You're like, no. You're like,
no. What I saw was opportunistic criminality. And that is exactly what Chaz is. It's opportunistic criminality. If you want to do whatever the fuck you want and not have anyone say anything to you, if you're violent enough, places like Chaz, movements like Black Lives Matter, movements like Occupy Wall Street is the prime place for you to mix into a crowd of angry people who seemingly say that they're there for peace, but you can mix into their crowd without any fucking background check. And you can take that to the bank.
My thing is, how do you take over a place and you're not even self-sufficient? And like,
it's all rage. Think about, I'm looking at it from a psychological
I mean,
point of
like, you like, they didn't think about food, they didn't think about gardening, all they have to do is cut off their water. I think that they're being set up for slaughter. I think it's a trap. And then these bikers.
I hope so. Kill them all and let God sort them out.
The thing I'm worried about is now the bikers or Trump are saying that they're going to go out there and like take it back, but they're going to paint it as like this white racist. Oh, look at these white racist people coming in. These people are just trying to be peaceful. And look at these white supremacists just came and like killed all of them. I don't think it's going to end well. And then that guy that died, you know, they were getting mad because the ambulance people didn't want to go without a police escort. But then it's like, well, how did he get shot in the first place if your fucking place is supposed to be so peaceful? Why are people getting shot up in there?
Because it attracts an opportunistic criminal element.
Vampires. It attracts vampires. Yeah. It's fucking vampires. Like for real. I don't know, man. People are laughing at it, but I'm a little nervous. I think it's going to be bad. I think they're going to, this is my prediction. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I'm open to be totally wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I just think they're being set up. And then I was looking at, I don't know if you ever watched Really Graceful. She brought up a really good point about Seattle being a Fortune 500 town and why would they just let this happen in this Fortune 500 town? And I think, what's his face? Oh God, I can't think of that guy's name. So that's a politician, but he's marching. And she's like, so you think he's with you and he's marching with you with his bodyguards around him. But you think that you're so I think that they've set it up as a chess move, as a playing card. And when that shit goes down, they're going to try and blame it on white supremacy and shit like that. I don't think it's going to work. I just think that, I don't think it's going to work as far as the election is concerned. I just think that it's going to be bad. It's going to be bloody.
You know what? I'm like I said, once again, perhaps the intention was to take over, be self-sufficient, show fucking white supremacist America that you guys got it all fucking figured out with your purple hair and your fucking tattoos and your nose rings. Okay? They had the opportunity to show what they were really about. And I think that, once again, Trump had to step back. Instead of sending in the National Guard, instead of sending in the army like he should have, he had to step back and he had to expose it. He had to say, this is what your utopia really looks like. And this is what your democratic leadership is going to do to protect you. Nothing. So once again, like you said, it might be planned. It might be a situation where they're trying to use it to their benefit. But at the end of the day, the fact that I'm seeing what Chaz really is proves to me everything that I say about liberals. It proves to me everything that I say about communists. Yeah. It proves to me everything that I saw 10 fucking years ago when people were bitching about Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah.
So, you know, and once again, this goes back to me being a Buddhist. Sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. Sometimes all the Band-Aids got to get ripped off at one time in order for everyone to be in enough pain to say, let's sit back and take a fucking look at this.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what's happening in 2020. The medical industry is being exposed. The media is being exposed. The Democratic Party is being exposed. Okay? Antifa is being exposed. George Soros is being exposed. I am taking it upon my fucking shoulders to expose Black Lives Matters. You are taking it upon your shoulders to expose the vaccine industry and all the fucking lies behind that. You know, Jericho Green is just giving us a fucking day in the life of what it's like to live as a resident, a law-abiding taxpayer in California. Okay? Axe is exposing the fucking gay agenda just like I am as well. You know, it has to happen.
Yeah.
Because everybody got too comfortable on Starbucks and Real Housewives for too long. I got comfortable on Starbucks and Real Housewives. I told you, I wanted to make sure that my business stayed neutral. I was not, after what happened to me in 2014, I was not going to speak my mind about anything to anybody. Well, look what happened. We let everything slide for too long, and now the fucking prisoners are running the board.
You went through that to make you stronger, though. You know what I mean? Now that you've
right. So if I go through it again, I'll be fine.
Yeah, you know now. You know how it is. Like, I feel like a lot of the bullying and stuff that I went through years ago, it's given me a thicker skin. And people are like, "Oh, you're so bold and stuff." I was like, "Yeah, I've been through a lot of shit. I just like pop up my mom's scooch this way." You know what I mean? Like, you gotta, people, when you see people like that, it's usually because they've been through a lot. I don't really know anybody that's brazen and bold and risky without having to have gone through a lot of stuff. So anyway, good way to end. Let me, where could we find you? Tell them, and then I will also put your links in the description.
Okay, so please follow on Instagram. It is redpill_rage. redpill_rage. If you are interested in seeing my professional content for my beer podcast, that is Beer Talk Radio. You can find my website at beertalkradio.net. I am absolutely, I told Virstyne this, I'm looking for conservative beer drinkers that want to enjoy some fun chug videos and fun beer pairing videos and fun beer reviews. That is actually what I do full time. But like Jericho Green, I tried to be done with the left, but they just wouldn't let me. So,
yeah.
Like I said, I had my red pill breakthrough. I mean, I've red pilled for a while, but I came out 2.5 weeks ago. So you can see those videos on redpill_rage on Instagram.
I talked her into getting a YouTube channel too, so I'm gonna put that on. So hopefully by the time this goes up, she'll have that done, and then maybe you can get some people to sponsor you, some beer people to sponsor you. That'd be great.
I am open to all possibilities. I'm actually a really fun, happy person. I'm just a patriot in a party girl body. That's it.
I love it. All right, Jennifer, thank you so much. I'm so glad we connected. Thanks for reaching out. I will talk to you later, guys. Oh, wait, I got to do my thing too. Please subscribe to the email list. Please subscribe to our alternative channels. I'm going to put that in the links. Please go by our store and either buy some zines, or you can buy the Conspiracy Realist t-shirt and the All Lives Matter bumper sticker. And that's it, y'all. I'll talk to you later. Peace to you. Bye-bye.